Hi, I'm Arnoud de Rijker, alias Ardir Draws. I wanted to make a video of a sketchbook I recently finished. It's an A6 size sketchbook that fits into my pocket, and it was a book that I carried with me everywhere I went. So usually when I'm on the commute or I have 5 minutes to spare, I would sketch something in it. I also added a loop, so I could always fit some kind of pencil or pen in it. Whatever I had nearby, I would put in there and then just go out and about. There aren't any extensive studies in these sketchbooks, usually like small observational doodles. It's the brand of this sketchbook is a Canson 180 degrees sketchbooks. I really like those. Light paper, but you can always open them up. It's opened up completely flat. I also have some tickets from museums I went to when I had this sketchbook with me, and I would take notes or make small sketches. It started out with a portrait right after I got it out of the art store. Made this on the bus, and I also bought markers, which I never have worked with before, and I wanted to try it out. Not a great drawing, but just a good doodle. Then a mix of pencil and markers, just to try out. Not a great drawing, just something to try out. Which I think is kind of key with a sketchbook, is to not always make pretty drawings. I have also sketchbooks with only really good observational drawings. But it gets kind of tiresome to always make those extensive drawings. Just sometimes good doodles is up. Things I take in meetings, the architecture firm I worked, and quick sketch of buildings when I know specifically that I was Airbnb in Hasselt, and experimenting with how I could indicate shadow with hatching. And I also show this to my students, how they should deal with it and how to apply detail, not overthink it. Some penciling, also in Hasselt. Sure, it's on camera. Some sketches of my students during the model making class I give. So I'm usually located in the center of the room where they can come to me with questions after I gave them the introduction to the exercise. And when nobody's coming, I just grab my sketchbook and start drawing them. For these drawings, I specifically avoid anatomical details, but usually just look at large shapes and make that interesting, very dynamic flow of interaction. There is some kind of anatomical knowledge that I know how what a body looks like and how things are connected, but I don't really look specifically of all the muscles and bones, just shapes and forms. High volumes. Sketches on the go of people. It's a hard angle always for me. At the zoo, I went there with my sister and mother-in-law. I mean, my stepmom, the proper term. Sorry, I speak Dutch. English, always have to think about it. Monkeys, giraffe, lion, the penguin, I think that's the proper term, or penguins, like that I don't know in English. It's a rock or something, pladass in Dutch. Fish, this one I was really proud of, remember that, did it very fast. The fish wasn't even standing still, I just looked very intensively for a minute how it moved and the different positions it was in, and then I just drew it from memory, and then looked back at it at the end to add some more details. In the flamingo, it's usually something I noticed with drawing things that move a lot is to not be constantly trying to capture it one piece at a time, but just study it for a moment, how it look like in different positions, how does it move, and then just grasp onto one position, just imagine a pose almost, and then just construct that and keep looking at it in between and keep on adding on your own position. It's not like drawing figures from imagination with having some reference but not really a definitive position. Or sketching here, you can see that goes wrong when you keep adding little things one at a time. Start with a head, an arm, and then a hand, but it feels very stiff. Didn't go for the big gesture. With architecture sketching and environments, that's not really a problem because everything stands still. It was a circus nearby in Capella, I think. Testing out with line weight. So it's closer by. Sticker lines on the outline. Some gestures of people fishing. We're really far away at the sea, but kind of boils down the essence of figure drawing. A lesson I've learned over 2 years worth of figure drawing is that all the anatomy doesn't really matter if you can't do this correctly. There's no really right way to do it, but you kind of have to say it with a few lines first and then add on. Same with imaginative drawing. Doodles of shoes. My grandfather, who passed away also this year, right before 2020, right before the corona lockdown. He was suffering from dementia and other smaller things, but it's one of the last visits I made to him. I have a couple more drawings I think of him, also in other sketchbooks, but you can see that he was becoming less and less mobile. It's kind of what I depicted. I also didn't want to talk a lot of the time, so I just started drawing, and I usually draw him just to really get him into my memory. People on the go, testing out hatching, how you can use like one direction of hatching just to indicate everything of tone and shadow. Not so great drawings, more scribbly drawings that work better. Use a thicker pen. Some animals. I think these were statues or of animals, that's why I could capture very dynamic pose. Some imaginative drawing. Something I noticed because I'm an architecture. I teach architectural sketching, and only recently I've wanted to get more into imaginative concept arts things drawing. So I started thinking how could I go about it. I think I started also watching video lecture on character drawing. Just how I could morph a tree piece I saw and then make something out of it that's imaginative. Not great, I've come way further now, but kind of my first point. Just like a quick idea I had of a rabbit that steals a carrot from the tree and would be running afterwards. Some head doodles. I was thinking about iterations and variations. It's an observational sketch of Mechelen. Just a quick one. Some more in Mechelen. That was a quick study of the library. Eventually I made a better version in another sketchbook, but just to kind of thumbnail it out where it all go. It's also in Mechelen. I think it's a sculpture of some saint, and wouldn't say Jesus. Also here with the hatching, I don't try to go in too many directions, mainly vertical and diagonal. So something I learned over the years is to not hatch in all different directions. Quick doodles of people on the go. They always seem to work the best when I just keep it with large shapes and don't add too many details, and then hatch in somewhere. Also with just the bold marks. Maybe they don't look exactly like the person, but at least it looks more interesting. Doodles of a tree. I think this is the point where I also decided that I would make like 30 drawings of trees for Inktober, because I always struggle with drawing leaves and branches. I always get stuck up in way too many details. And yeah, that's why I decided to do that for the Inktober event. Not drawing my grandfather. Started out with sheeps, I think, but then couldn't fill the page, and then later used this page for my grandfather. It's not too accurate in the face. It's more of a puppet face, I would say. Something I would draw from imagination usually, without any reference. A good question. Where was this? No, lunch meal somewhere. I think we ate fries of Chinese food. It was Chinese food. 3 buckets. Someone at a bar. Colleagues of where I teach. They are 3 persons I work with. Well, not all the time. She's helping me develop further in the Sketch Atlas project in terms of marketing, make it financially viable. She does research, and she also does research. Just people I see all the time, and with her I graduated. It was at a event for mainly colleagues, not really students, and they said, "And why don't you draw us?" And I thought, okay, well, they just act normally, don't pose. And they went talking, and I almost forget that I drew them, and then I just quickly sketched them out. I was quite happy with the result. A quick doodle that I thought was interesting, but didn't go anywhere. More doodles of people at Christmas parties. Another sketch at an Airbnb. Just when I was wake up too early, I was thinking about line weight. A beer at a bar. Colleagues. This was done with the pilot's pen. I remember that because the ink is not directly dry. And trying to capture people golfing poses. It's like the same with the animals. They don't really stand still. You kind of have to really think about the poses and then imagine almost one, and then start adding on top of that with what you see. More people at bars. A sketch at the table when I was bored. It was New Year's Eve. I just also drew some friends who were over there. And I wanted to just draw something, and I thought I should capture this moment. Doesn't look all too similar like the people, but it's kind of a nice memory. Another sketch of friends, Wallace. He's a very pronounced lobe here, which always something I immediately see when I see him. It's something I notice every time I see him. More sketches of people and notes from an exhibition. More people. That's my mother from the back. People on the go. You see, when people don't stand still too much, I kind of fall back on my idea of a face. Kind of more of a puppet. Just like putting different volumes on top of it, but lacking certain kind of finesse or detail to be like a real face. Sketch of the sketching class. One of the sketching classes I give with Jan. He's in front doing his demo. It was the first class I had to give with him. And he took the lead, and then I would add on. I was mainly there as assistant. And I made a drawing of the room while the students had like 15 minutes. I think we're now at the 9-minute mark. To draw an assignment. And I made a sketch of the interior, and then was really thinking about focal points. Something I only then discovered, more or less, is that even with small sketches, it helps to have like one area where you put all the detail and the rest leave kind of open and suggest that it has all this material. It's almost like the unsharp and sharp part of a photo. More doodle. Interesting where you can end up with like 5 seconds. Sketches of my dog. Not too accurate, this one. But it gets the idea across. Another sketch of my dog. This one's quite accurate. A little bit sad here because he was going through some new treatments. He has had a long time suffering from his bladder. Now he's finally better, but then he wasn't really that great. He was really sick most of the days. He was lying around sleeping. But it's a good subject. This time more like a value-ish sketching. So mainly thinking about like shadow shape, light shape, not really overthinking the whole form and how things are constructed part. I have a sketch of the pool house of my parents' house. This was during quarantine, start of quarantine, and with colleagues we decided to make quarantine sketches in lockdown to motivate other colleagues and students to keep on drawing. And I made a sketch of the pool house and posted it on Instagram and put a proper tag on it. It was also then again thinking about hatching patterns. Something I've thought a lot about, how hatching indicates value but also form, and how to balance two. Poles, street poles, cats, my cats, really quick sketches. This was at the vet for my dog when they needed to thoroughly look at him, so they needed, I think, 30 minutes that I had to wait outside. It was really hot, so I made a sketch. When I finally chose what I would sketch, I sketched the parking lot and buildings in the background near the vet. Sketch of the dog. This was before the vet, I think. No, this was right before the vet. Then I left the page open. Then I do this one. Sketches of sheep. More sheep also nearby the vet. This were observation, but really far away, and this was imagination. So seeing the sheep and then draw it in different positions. If you kind of ignore the whole construction of the legs, you can just think of like one big block of wool and then just add 4 legs on it. When you get really detailed and closer, then you really need to study how the legs are constructed from animals, but really far away, just a block and 4, almost like 4 poles sticking out. Another lantern pole. Oh, it's interesting by the wires. They are the chaos, and that's interesting. That was my dog Lasse, by the way. Right after the vet, they had to put him in slight sleep to really get a thorough look on him, what's the matter with the bladder. And right afterwards, for the rest of the day, he was really sleepy and he was looking for comfort while I was driving, so he sat next to me to my pool. The reason I made this sketch because I thought I was gonna lose him one of these days, because it seemed like really drastic with his bladder. Luckily, he's fine now. He's old, but he's fine. And so, but that was the kind of like almost, I thought this was kind of the last drawing I could make of him, and thought make this really close one, studied. I think it's quite accurate. Thinking on a tree bark with markers. I was kind of like thinking about values. I never really studied it until more recently, how values work, and I was thinking about with Copic markers like C1, C3 and C5. Now I think we should completely different about it, but back then quick doodle at the vet also. Usually during quarantine I picked up the sketchbook when I had to go to the vet. It was a lot of times. Also at the vet. This was with the classic big pen, ballpoint pen. What I like about those ballpoint pens is that you can go really soft and really hard with them. It's almost like drawing with a pencil, but you can't erase it, and you can't do like the really side shading that you can do with a pencil, but you can get really close to it. So that was a different moment that I noticed, like for hatching, it can be actually all directions, it has to be very uniform. Just an excavator that didn't work out. I tried to warp like two views, just like a wide shot. This was right of me, so let me try to warp it in one perspective, but kind of ended up skewed, like a bad Photoshop skewing. Windsurfers. I have a lot of my family members that windsurf, so I made like quick sketches with like fishers. More windsurfing. Okay, quick layered landscape approach. Clouds. I don't know why I drew clouds. I think I drew clouds. That's why. As an idea, I saw this video on silhouette design. That you have like this random shape and then put a vehicle or something into it. I thought, oh, I sketch a cloud, and it didn't work out to completely the way I wanted, because I thought, oh, I could just draw vehicles out of imagination. Now I took some lessons and I know how you kind of have to deal with that to make it look well, but I can always just like experimenting. This is a sketch of a guy I saw drawing in Brussels. He had like a large paper stacked near a parking, near the entrance of a parking lot. I forgot where it exactly was. And the drawing was okay, but he really was going for it, and I had a conversation with him, and he made a quick sketch of me. I think it's quite well done. It's not really thought about form. It's mainly like the very traditional Belgian art school approach on drawing, which is no construction mainly, and just dealing with details. Quick pose while I was waiting in a meeting, an online meeting. I went like to Sketch Daily, I think, or just a model of those that I thought was interesting. Want to maybe use it for a character design. Model from Pinterest. That was it. Pinterest is a lot good site actually to get model poses from. Just have like a generic, like good pose to then add some imaginative armor or something on top. At the doctor's office, sketching a stool, a chair, stool is Dutch, and mainly considering I was then getting into the whole value part and starting with digital painting. But I thought, how could I, not that it worked out, but how could I integrate it in my sketchbook? And then I was really more thinking about the hatching and the thickness. I should be doing a cross hatching to indicate certain values. Quick sketch of the canal nearby. And also mainly thinking focal point. I have drawn everything. Draw literally a circle, and all in there I have more details, and the rest slightly fake. This was a sketch from an exhibition, the outside of an exhibition I did recently. It was a small exhibition in the KL8 in the Paul Michielstraat 50 in Jette, Brussels. And I was waiting for friends who came to see my work. Not a lot of people came, but yeah, it was fine. And while I was waiting, I didn't really want to talk to a lot of people. Kind of not really a shy, but an introverted person at times, and I just sketched the front side of it, also capturing it as a memory. This was when it was quite hot that day. I was sitting outside and I wanted to draw something. I didn't know what to draw, and so I decided to draw, thought the view was interesting, decided to draw the garden, the terrace, and then the pool house, and thought was an interesting composition. Also, it's it's also very mundane, but sometimes things get interesting. Because I more recently got more into digital art and all this imaginative aspect, and then when I finally at night just want to draw something in my sketchbook, I draw like this very mundane scenery, everyday stuff. Just kind of a balance, something I need. Quick sketches of people at the beach, really small. Just focusing on the motion. Yeah, at the doctor's office again. You can see the same equipment. It's kind of a new method I was thinking. I think I also saw a video on top of it. Instead of always drawing an entire scene and then adding details on top of it, you're starting with one element and then adding elements to it and see where you end up. And that's a good method. If you don't know how long you will have, if you have then like an hour, you will fill the entire page. If you have like this, like 5 minutes, then at least you made something interesting that fits together in 5 minutes. Otherwise, everything is fake. Otherwise, it's just like a big structure, but no details. Now you get like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 detailed things. And I think this is the last sketch. It's just nearby in the woods. I wanted to draw something observationally, but with the lockdown, you can't really go to too many places where it's safe, or at least where I feel safe. And then I went to the local park and found a bench where not too many people were sitting. Mainly, I got why I sat there was just suddenly I was walking through it. Oh, this is an interesting view, just trees, but I thought the arrangements of mainly the outer scenes like captured the scene of something. That's what I wanted to draw, and I was more thinking again about using how this ballpoint pen works, and just decided to draw it. I should figure out still how to deal with these twigs in between trees, and I mainly have seen painters do is kind of ignore what usually the shape of all these clusters of leaves look like and just invent new things, maybe something to try out. But I always think like with live drawing, I would like to capture the actual life and not like reinvent everything. Oh no, it's not the last drawing. Like on the stove with my grandmother. I was thinking about reflective material, but didn't go anywhere with this kind of technique. And I should be able to do it, but I haven't really tried it out before, so it kind of went nowhere. But yeah, it's still interesting to think about where I added detail and the background I just left it lying. So that was it. I have many more sketchbooks, but I decided to start with this one because I recently finished it.